So after you've done a factor analysis, you'll probably want to test a sum theory. In order to do that, you need to make some connections between these constructs. So what we're going to do, now that we know we have pretty solid constructs, is we're going to hide all their indicators so they're out of the way. So you right click it and click toggle indicators. Toggle. Now we can just move things around nice and freely, and there's not much mess. What you'll do is connect them with this line. Let's see, amount of content affects attitude, attitude affects intent, and let's say content affects intent. So here's our theory, right? Our causal model. Stick this over here, stick this over here. There we go. There's our theory. And to run it, first go to Options, Run. Make sure instead of Factor you go to Path for inner weightings, and hit OK. And that's it. You may want to save as something else like Path Model or SEM or something like that, and then hit Run. Alright, OK, and here we go. We have our loadings, these are regression weights, just like you would see in Amos or Lizral. The general rule with these regression weights in any program is that you want it above 0.2, 0.3, or the absolute value above 0.2, 0.3. Otherwise, you don't have real practical significance. However, the actual statistical significance will rely a great deal upon your sample size. Additionally, the r squared here, shown below the construct, also tells you about how much of the variance you're actually explaining in the construct, and you want something at least at 0.1. If you're explaining less than that, then it's kind of debatable whether or not you're explaining enough to be practically usable. It's not useful. So anyway, given all that, sample size and r squareds, these are pretty good, these regression weights right here. This one obviously is not significant, 0.000, so I'm just going to delete that and run it again. There we go. These changed just a little bit. This is saying that amount of content actually has a negative effect on your attitude towards, in this case it's a website, I believe, and your attitude has a significant positive effect on your intent to purchase something on that website. And attitude actually explains quite a bit of intent, 23%. Now there is a way to also check the statistical significance, the actual p-values for these regression weights, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you have to do a bootstrap. You go to Execute, Generate Bootstrap. We're going to do the bootstrap in order to produce a t-statistic, which we can then use in Excel to produce a p-value. Now, instead of looking at the, instead of just clicking on this output, you need to go to View, change the showing, instead of showing .list, which is what we saw before, we're going to show .out, and now click on this output. Here's the .out, and we can see t-statistics here for each of the items on the constructs. It actually looks like content 1 is not contributing very well, most likely not significant. We're looking for above 2, roughly, above 1.98, 2.0. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of content 1 and then rerun this. So right click, toggle indicators, here's content 1, just delete it and run again. These look very good, but don't forget we need to run the bootstrap in order to get those values we wanted, the t-statistics. Hit OK, go to output, and we look again. These are much better. Content 4 is still a little low, 2.6, but it's probably significant. What we're really interested in is the AVE. Well, for the reflective constructs, like attitude, we're very interested in the composite reliability. This should be above 0.7. 0.9 is very good. And for all the constructs, whether they're reflective or formative, we're looking at the AVE, the average variance explained or extracted. And this should be above 0.5. It looks like we're doing just fine. And the reliability looks pretty good on all of them. Alright, and now we want to look at the path coefficients, the mean of subsamples. We have a negative 0.344 for content on attitude, and a 0.4974 for attitude on intent. We're going to take these values into Excel. So one way to do this, let's say we had a really large table. One better way to do this, rather than manually pasting them over one at a time, is you just copy this whole thing and right click, copy, go over to Excel, and instead of pasting normally, you'll click on this down arrow and use the text import wizard, and it's going to be delimited by space, and hit finish. There we go, now it's in a table. Otherwise it all goes into a single cell and it's pretty annoying. Now those are the regression weights. You're going to go back and find the t-statistic. That's right here at the very bottom. Copy those over, and you're going to paste them the same way. Use the import wizard, delimited, next, space, finish. There it is. And what we'll do is we will create a little table for the p-values. I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, get rid of these values because we already have them, and we'll do equals t, and it's a t-distribution, two-tailed, and the x is going to be the t-statistic, and the degrees of freedom is going to be our n, our sample size, minus 1 or 2. In this case, it really doesn't make a huge difference unless you only have like 10 samples. But the difference between 1 and 2 is actually not that big. So I'm going to do n minus 2 just to be conservative. And our sample size was 81, so that's going to be a degrees of freedom of 79. And hit enter. And drag across, drag down. And here we go. I have a p-value of 0.001 for content on attitude, a negative 3.44 regression weight. And for attitude on intent, I have a, that's scientific, let's change that to a number. And if we want to say the exact value, we can keep pressing this increase decimals. We have a 0.00 blah 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 46. So very significant, the effect of attitude on intent. And there you have it. Those are your p-values, your t-statistics, and your regression weights, all from the Bootstrap, boot.out. There you go.